The liability.
Yeah. So, what's the example? 200 is the payment? You're asking for debits and credits?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good.
Because I can sketch it out.
That's good.
Continue, when, Joe,
Yes.
when you have a lease, like, for example, a restaurant pays additional contingent rent based on amount of value, how is that component of the additional rent treated in this, under this?
Period charge. Doesn't go into this calculation because it's a variable payment that is not considered to be part of the minimum lease payments. Now, if there was a guaranteed minimum, then that answer would change because that would be considered a in substance fixed lease component, meaning that you cannot avoid to pay, let's say the minimum was $100,000. You could not avoid paying $100,000. So at a minimum, you'd include $100,000 in the calculation. But you wouldn't estimate out what it would be based on historical. You just take the minimum. The true portion that meets concept statement of a liability, i.e. it is unavoidable.
And that contingent payment would be included in the expense?
Only if there's a guaranteed minimum,
No,
an
no.
unavoidable portion.
No, but let's say we have to pay a contingent amount, $25,000 in this example. That $25,000, would that be hit with the straight line?
No.
The expense side on the, with,
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah.
variable, the
Yeah.
variable piece, true variable piece in
Yeah.
your example?
Yeah.
Yes.
to be component.
It's completely, it doesn't come into this calculation at all. It would just be another,
Part of the
you know,
expense.
yeah, debit expense, credit cash.
Joe, if you have a lease with CPI, right, and it's a 10-year term, you're gonna be able to figure out what that CPI is for the 10 years?
No, you take the CPI that's in effect as of the date, as of today. And
Figure that every year?
Correct.
Would be the,
yeah, so let's say CPI is 3%, and that's what you would take a 3%
adjustment?
increase. Even, you would not estimate out what CPI is over the term.
Historical averages.
You take the amount that's in effect at the date that it gets signed.
Joe, even though I know we're kind of bridging a little bit of concepts here, but even though these are kind of interest in amortization, they're sort of called, but they're not treated that way. Any thought of how these things might impact the classic definition of EBITDA? So did you just assume they're rented and, not excluded?
This, if we're talking about operating, Right.
Not operating.
if you're
Finance
talking
is
about,
pretty clear.
yeah, if you're talking about operating, this is mechanical. It does not get recorded as it would not be part of EBITDA as EBITDA is defined. It's just an EBITDA
Classic
normal.
EBITDA.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't the company want to stress for a finance lease then, to help them with their EBITDA?
Either that, or I think it's a negotiating point when you're redoing, or when you're redoing your debt agreements to get this stuff excluded.
I'll be going into that hybrid lease and the advantages on the balance sheet for it, which is significant.
So just from a presentation standpoint, balance sheet, you have a right to use asset is always non-current, because it's like PP&E. And then the liability, again, just like debt, has a current portion, non-current portion. On the income statement, as I mentioned, operating lease, one line item, finance lease, just like a capital lease today, you have an amortization component, you have an interest component. Practical expedience. So, as I mentioned, there's a laundry list, so I got 2 pages, practical expedience, and I'm not going to go through all of these. The first 2 I already mentioned, I'm just going to re-mention them. This has to do with the bundling. You'll notice that the bundling, the lease and non-lease components, those are the criteria that I spoke about before. So for a lease E, it's really a policy choice. For a lessor, it's obviously a little bit more involved there. And it's in your handout, so you can certainly read it. This is literally almost copied, probably is copied directly from GAAP. The discount rate, just highlighting that again, I think these are certainly ones to look at. Probably the discount rate is something that will help a lot. The package of practical expedience is what I was referring to before, and the last one that I'll talk about here. This really has to do with transition guidance and easing your transition into the new standard. So it's a package, meaning that the 3 elements of this practical expedient must be adopted together. You can't pick and choose. So all of those elements. First thing, no need to reevaluate whether or not the arrangement contains a lease. So that whole thing about the first step, you wouldn't have to do that if you elect the package. The second thing is that the lease classification would also not need to be reassessed. So if I had an operating lease before, I'll have an operating lease again. I don't necessarily need to go through the whole assessment and reassess. And the last one is the incremental direct costs. No need to go back and look at those and bring it back as to where they were, just take them as they are. This is certainly a good practical expedient and alternative to really consider. Not going to go through the other ones. They're probably a little less common. Disclosures, again, not necessarily going to go into detail, but like 606, you've got quantitative and qualitative disclosures. There's a lot of them. Public companies will be coming out with them soon. We can all follow Rob's example when it comes out.
Good times,
Yes.
good times.
So yeah, there's a lot to look at there, and it'll be fun. Any final questions?
Joe, you didn't talk about the possible postponement in the effective date for private companies. I saw some literature recently about that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Well, there could be a deferral. Is it? I think we did the same thing on the 606 side, talking whether it was deferred, and it actually was deferred once.
Oh,
Not the lease standard, the 606. So
yeah.
you know, fingers crossed. It's a lot to take in. You know, we got 606, we got 842, we got CECL, we got blah 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 blah. Well, thank you, and if you think of anything afterwards, please feel